Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's 7 o'clock. We'll get going. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us this evening for this year's sort of club webinar seminar online. Lots and lots of information to get through, so really appreciate you joining us. Hopefully some very valuable information that will come across. Can I just go through some very sort of simple housekeeping to start off with, please? First of all, can I ask everyone to put themselves on mute, please, so we don't get the background noise? If you have any questions throughout this meeting, we can either leave it to the end, or can I ask you to use the chat box where we'll collate the questions, and then we will go back, or we'll present to you the FAQs at the end of this, so the answers to the questions will come your way. For everyone that doesn't know Zoom, although we're getting fairly familiar with it now, the chat box you can find in the bottom sort of tab bar of the Zoom account, and it's a speech bubble that says chat. Simply click on that, write your question in there. We'll monitor them through the meeting, so if we need to, we can answer them there and then if it's easy to do so, or if there are a large number of questions, obviously we'll collate the most important ones and then we'll get those out to you. We are obviously going to record the call, so we can send the recording, or we can get the recording up onto the Cornwall Cricket Board website, and we'll be sending the slides out to every club and probably every person that's on this call in the next day or two. So, you know, clearly that's often an FAQ is, will you send the slides out? Yes, we will be sending the slides out to you. So yeah, any questions, please use the chat box, even though I've asked them there, put your hand up if you need to. Questions in the chat box, please. And if you've got any questions that are subject specific, please make sure you contact the relevant staff member. Just for your information, Cornwall Cricket Board has grown over the last sort of few months fantastically well. So obviously myself, Joe Skinner, Chief Cricket Officer, and my team are listed below there around their subject specifics, from our new employees, Jane, Laura and David Painter, who will be presenting shortly around their areas. The agenda tonight is very much around disability cricket, women and girls cricket, safeguarding, national programmes, grants, play cricket and volunteers. So there's an awful lot to get through. Timelines, I'm not sure how long it's going to take, but we'll try and get through the slides to give you as maximum sort of chance to read or to see the information as possible and to hear the presenters present. So I'm going to hand over the baton now to David Painter, who is our Disability Development Officer. So David, over to you. You're on mute, David. There you are.
How's that? There we are. Good start. Good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm David Painter, the Disability Development Officer for Cornwall. Job I started on the 11th of October. So we're coming up to about 4 months now that I've been in post, and it's been very hectic but enjoyable. So Joe, if we can have the first one up. There we are. Now this shows you where the job falls into. It falls into two categories really. The biggest area is that through Lord's Taverners, and what that charity offers all the counties throughout the country, and there I have to have two areas. I'm looking at table cricket and also what's called Super Ones. People often ask me, could I explain what both of these are? And just very quickly, table cricket, people often of my age often think back to Subbuteo with the football. Table cricket is very similar. obviously indoor, and it's something which the schools can get involved in. All they need is a table tennis table and then the equipment to go with it. 12 schools listed there. That's because that's what Cornwall has managed to get on board presently, 12 schools. And over time, as we manage to get around the county, we hope to build that up towards 20 as soon as we can. It's been difficult because to get into schools, as many of you will realize, has not been easy because of the COVID restrictions. So it's been a slow process and a difficult one. The fact you may have seen upon social media and so on from Lord's Taverners is that they have just developed a completely new set for table cricket. It should have been out ready for us to launch this year, but it looks like it's going to be, could be April, May before it comes out. So we've had a shortage of kits. So that's table cricket through the schools. Super Ones. Super Ones is simply indoor cricket, which we provide across Cornwall. The aim was to set up, when I started, 3 hubs, which we have managed to do. One at Callywith College in Bodmin, second one is there in Truro at the Cricket Centre, and the third one is in the Leisure Centre at Penzance. So this is indoor cricket coaching and gradually developing young people who are interested in cricket with a disability. The aim for that, as far as Lord Taverners were concerned, was for us to get about 8, an average of 8 per centre. And already we've hit that, just hit it yesterday in Penzance with 8, got up to that one. Truro, well, we're on about 14 players already there, and Bodmin, we're on 7. But we've only had 2 sessions in Bodmin so far. We started a bit later there. So it's looking good on the Super Ones front. We're building up. That's with 3 hubs. That was the target. Who knows at the end of the year. And the year for Taverners runs from October through to the end of September. So during September, the start of the new school year, we'll be seeing where we stand as far as the 3 hubs. Will we increase? Goodness knows, I don't know yet. We shall see. ECB, that's the second area. And this is the area which concerns most of you coming in this evening, and that's champion clubs. Champion clubs, so far we have 2 in Cornwall. That's St Stephen Cricket Club and Troon Cricket Club. Now, champion clubs are clubs, ordinary cricket clubs, that will provide cricket, coaching, and whatever else for those with a disability. No age restrictions, no whatever, it's open. Champion clubs started last year and we had 2. You only need to ask, I would suggest, Richard Budge in St Stephen and Alan Thomas in Troon, what effect that has on a club. St Stephen, I tell you what effect it had on there, they were the club of the year last year. And if you ask them, one of the reasons why, it's because they run disability cricket. Troon, I think it'd be true to say, we went in there and it has in fact given that club life, and now they're returning to the league again. So it actually helped to save Troon in many ways. What it does offer, and what I'm looking at, we've got some question marks. I want more clubs now to join us. I want more clubs offering cricket on a weekly basis to those with a disability. And now if we move on to the next slide, I can tell you what this entails. Right, becoming a champion club. First of all, are you a welcoming club? Do you really want to have these? Do you run Dynamos? Do you run All Stars? Do you run women's cricket? Are you the sort of club that's embracing all the things that are coming into cricket presently? That's the first thing you need to ask yourself, and it's the first thing that I would look at if you so get in touch with me. Being a champion club with those with a disability, it does need the club to have a dedicated coach to this area. It's not something where you can put in those with a disability, in with the All-Stars, in with the Dynamos, in with youth cricket generally, or anything else. You do need a section on its own with a dedicated coach, because this is a little bit of a speciality. There's lots of things involved with coaching those with a disability, be it learning, be it physical. You know, it does vary, and you need not large groups. We're not looking at suddenly a club should have 30 or 40. No, we're looking at around about the 8 to 10 mark, as we do indoors with this. Obviously, what I would like to see then is the club support of this. In fact, that the committee is fully behind your club taking on the responsibilities of running some disability cricket. What we're looking at is very similar to the other national programs. That is, we want to set up so many sessions during the course of the season, starting in mid-May perhaps is usually a good time, and running through. It says 8 there. In fact, the 2 clubs that are already running this ran it right the way through to the end of the season. In fact, we had a little festival finishing it all off, and what an evening that was. People will tell you what a great occasion it was when you bring these brilliant youngsters together. I put local schools in there because this is where I can come in helping immediately, and that is and get into the local schools, into the ARBs, into the special needs sections, into the schools. I can go in and chat to the staff there and to the pupils in those areas, give them some taster sessions, and then it's in your area, come along, come and join the champion club that's just down the road from you. That is ideal, an ideal situation. And of course, what we would ask you as a champion club to do is to, once you've got things going, come on, join in, and let's bring some of the groups together. Win, lose, draw is all about playing as far as they're concerned, and having, I tell you what, they're more interested in making sure you've got some food afterwards for them, just as much as the game itself. But the parents will be fully supportive, their carers will be fully supportive. It's just a super concept. Joe is the next one. So what do you want to do? What do I want you to do? First of all, I'd like you to declare an interest. Tell me, yes, our club is interested in looking at becoming a champion club. We can then, I can come across and chat with 1 or 2 people, whatever it might be, have an informal chit chat, see what the club is like, see what you can put forward, and see where we're going. Is there a school close by? Whatever it might be. You're still keen, you still want to do it, right? Let's present it then to your committee. Let's get there, tell them all about being a champion club, telling them everything that it's about. And finally, once we've gone through that process, this doesn't take too long, is then complete the application form. That is not a difficult thing. It's fairly straightforward, all about the club's name, who the officers are, and signing a declaration of intent and so on. So it's not a difficult form to fill in. What you get out of it, besides having these wonderful people at your club, you will receive a full kit bag from the ECB, and that kit bag contains the usual stuff of stumps, of the plastic bats, because all this is softball cricket. It's not hardball, it's all softball. Plenty of kit provided. And at the end of the season, all has gone well. Give them the facts and figures of what's happened during the course of the summer, and you get £500 to cover the costs which you may have there of being involved in disability cricket during the course of the summer. Throughout this, my job is to support you throughout, give you advice and guidance on what I know about it, what I've experienced, what I'm experienced now with these people, these youngsters. Some of them will be not so young. It's surprising. They come along and they could be 30, 40 years of age, but they just love playing a game of cricket. It's a simple game, you know, the 8-a-side, nothing drastic, but they absolutely love it. So all I can say is on this one. If you want to become a champion club, there's nothing, it gives you what I call heartwarming feeling. And this goes throughout the club. You'll have fun, you'll have laughter, and at the end of it, a great rewarding feeling all about it. It is something that I'm passionate about, and it's taken over my life over the last 8 years, doing a variety of sports, and now cricket tops it all. I've even had a little Facebook message today. I love cricket more than I love my football. And to me, I was as chuffed as beans over that. That's coming in from a lad in Penzance. There we are. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I know we got lots to get through. So if you want to ask anything, do so at the end and so on. But now I can hand over to my friend Kelly, who's going to take you through the world of women's and girls cricket. Over to you, Kel.
Thank you, David. And as I'm sure you'll all agree, some really fantastic stuff going on there with disability cricket in Cornwall. Yeah, it's great to have David on board, and I hope to see more clubs join in and becoming champion clubs. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Kelly Williams. I think I've spoke to most of you in some form, but I'm the Women and Girls Development Officer. And my role is all about promoting women and girls cricket, getting more females involved in the game in any capacity, really. So Joe, if you could start us off with the first slide, please. Thank you. So just so you all have an idea of where we are and Cornwall Cricket's vision, our mission statement is to increase the number of women and girls playing and being involved in cricket in Cornwall. So that could be talking about your 5-year-old girl that comes along to her first All-Stars session, up to county senior players. But it's also talking about those females that could be interested in volunteering roles. So umpiring, scoring, groundskeeping, anything like that. We want to get more women and girls doing that in the county. Next slide, please, Joe. Thank you. Just to give you all an update of where we were last year, where we are now, and what our aim is for 2024. I've put this slide together. So in 2020, we had 13 clubs taking part in softball cricket, 6 clubs offering hardball women's cricket, and 3 clubs offering girls only sections. Fast forward to the end of last season and where we are now at the start of this season, we have between 22 and 24 softball clubs, 12 hardball clubs for women, and 7 girls clubs. So we've pretty much doubled in every area, in each area there, which down to the hard work of all you clubs, it shows it pays off. So thank you for that. Then we look at the games for 2024, and as you can see, we have an aim of 30 softball women's clubs, which we're on track for, to be fair. We've got a couple more years and we would like to reach that. If we can, we would like to exceed that target. So if anybody is interested in starting a women's softball section that hasn't yet got one, please do get in touch. I'll put my details at the end of it here, and I will work with you to get that going. Our target for hardball clubs was 12, and we have reached that already 2 years into our strategy, really. So again, I would like to increase that further if possible, because there's nothing to say we can't have more than our target. So it'd be great to get more clubs involved in hardball cricket. And then, as you can see, our target area for girls clubs is 30, and we are at 7. So although we have progressed, this is the area I really want to focus on over the next few years. I'll explain more in the next few slides, but this is so important, because if we miss out this section, then it's an opportunity for girls to go into other sports or lose their interest in cricket. So if we can get this implemented into as many clubs across the county as possible, then the better. I was on a call the other day with the ECB, and they said that a nationally, 1 in 10 clubs have a girls section. We have roughly 70 clubs in the county, and 7 of those clubs are offering girls cricket. So we are about in line with what's happening nationally, but I would like to improve that as an area. So that's something I really will be pushing. So next slide, please, Joe. As I was saying here, we've got the player pathway. So this is going to just take us through a journey for from All Stars Cricket ages 5 to 8 up to potentially representing England. So in all the stages that Cornwall Cricket have in place to ensure that that is possible for women and girls. So you've got All Stars Cricket here at the start, leading into Dynamos Cricket, or potentially club age group cricket. And then on the left there, we also have women's softball cricket. So if a girl progresses from All Stars Cricket, she gets to the age of 8 and then decides to play Dynamos Cricket, she gets to the age of 11, she could potentially progress into women's softball cricket, but that is quite an early age to do that. So ideally, we want to have a club girls team available for them so that they can progress into that in the next stage. So they're not progressing from 11-year-old softball Dynamos Cricket straight into Women's Development League, which is hardball cricket or women's softball. We need to bridge that gap so that we don't lose players at that stage. And that is the key message here. So we want to get more clubs offering that part of the pathway. Then, like I said, the Women's Development League is this year going to be an evening league, which is run locally. Oh, sorry, I've just had a question come in. I will try and get to those at the end, but I'll talk through the slides and then I'll get to them afterwards. And then that could lead from an evening league, which will be friendly games played on a local basis, into the Cornwall Women's League, which will be played on Sundays, or it could lead into county age groups, which I've put there, under 11s, under 13s, under 15s and 18s, which is what we currently offer for the girls. From the Women's League, this could also progress into the Cornish 100, which is an exciting new competition that we're going to do this year for the top players, female players in Cornwall. I'll go into that more in the next slide. And then from the Cornish 100 or county age group, we would hope that we will be able to feed players into Cornwall Cricket women's squad. And then from there, we could go into having players represent Western Storm, or Welsh Fire would also fit into that area, and then onto England Cricket. So that's the stages of development. And like, it's very important that we offer each stage so that there's a suitable playing offer for everybody, not just the All Stars, Dynamos, and then women. We want to offer that the best cricket possible for girls in between that age group. So next slide, please, Joe. The Cornish 100, I'll just briefly go through what it is, because some of you may not have heard this idea before. I've shared it with some people when asking for grounds to play at and things. So some of you might be slightly more aware than others, but it's a new competition coming to Cornwall this year, looking to involve the top 60 female players in the county to represent one of 4 teams. So the 4 teams will be one based in the north, south, east and west. And the aims of the competition are, as it says, number 1, to create an exciting competition that all female cricketers in Cornwall want to be a part of. In the past few years, we've had some problems, or some players choose to play other cricket rather than women's cricket in Cornwall, which is no fault of their own. It could be that they have to work one day at the weekend and they choose to play Saturday cricket over Sunday cricket for women, or they could have all sorts of things. That some people choose to play their club cricket in Devon or neighbouring counties, and we just want to eliminate that really and make sure that we've got a competition that everyone wants to be a part of. So we'll do that by making it bright, colourful, hopefully attracting large crowds, and different things that we can offer there. The next one is to engage a new audience for women's cricket in Cornwall. So as most of you know, the National 100 competition engaged a lot of new people into the game, so lots of women and children, and we would like to have that happen in Cornwall. So women's softball players who might not necessarily watch much hardball cricket or seen any different forms of cricket, we would look to have the games played at women's softball clubs, where then they are exposed to hardball cricket, and it's exciting and something that they really get involved in, and hopefully can support their team throughout the competition. Similar to the first one, we want to provide a high standard league consisting of competitive features. That's quite fixtures, quite self-explanatory, and again makes it desirable for players to be a part of. The next one, encourage past players back into the game. So a prime example of this would be Nicole Harvey, who some of you may know, and I know she won't mind me sharing her story because it's inspired a lot of people and it's quite public. that she played cricket to quite a high standard and got pregnant and got quite poorly with sepsis during her pregnancy, was told that she might not be able to walk or run again. And now she's back to playing. She's representing Western Storm and Welsh Fire. So I know a few people, that's inspired a few people. And it just proves that if you do drop out of the game for a bit, there's nothing stopping you coming back in. So that's something we want to do there, whether it could be players that have lost interest or players that have stopped playing due to having children or starting families and things. And the final one there for the aim of the competition is to get sponsorship to help fund the competition. So this could be for kits, coaches, umpires, balls, trophies, rewards, all different things there. So if anybody on the call has a business or knows somebody that has a business that might be interested in sponsoring part of the competition, there's different deals available, please do get in touch and I'll happily share some partnership agreements that we could look into for you. Next slide, please, Joe. As I said before, we want to offer cricket to all girls, women and girls across the county, no matter their age or ability. So I'll just go through here. This is a draft calendar for the season with a schedule of different things that we've got going on. So we have Cornwall Women T20 competition happening in April and May. So that's the ECB-led competition where we'll be playing different counties. The Women's League, which is going to be an 11-a-side league. We've got 8 teams currently said that they would like to be involved in that, which is better than last year at 6. And last year we played 8-a-side. So that's showing already that we've got a lot more players involved in the main league. We would also like to offer a women's evening league, which will be, like I said, on the pathway chart page. It will be an evening league and that will be 8-a-side. These are just some proposed dates. Women's Softball League will be taking place on a Wednesday night. Women's Softball Festivals are the yellow blocks on your screen. And I've put those in throughout the season because that will be for the club to decide when to host them and when to invite people. Of course, I'll be there to support and help advertise these, but there's not really a limit on when we can offer those. You can offer them whenever and throughout the week as well. It's not limited to Sundays, but I know a lot of clubs do choose to run them on Sundays. And then, Joe, if you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. We've also got on there the county age group fixtures, which is where it says CAG, under 18 and 15. The reason we put those on there is because we don't really want that to clash with the Women's League or the Cornish 100, because a lot of those players will be duplicated in teams. So we don't want a clash there and having people not available for games. So we've tried to work it so that we get the most out of the season. And on there, you can see we've got the Cornish 100, which are the 6 turquoise coloured blocks coming in at the end of the season. So we can build it up throughout the season, grow an interest, and people who have performed well throughout the season in Women's League and Saturday League cricket, all different forms of cricket, will then get the opportunity. So we're putting it at the end of the season so that everyone gets the chance to represent one of those groups, depending on their performance throughout the season. You might also notice that we haven't placed women's softball festivals as an option on those days, because we would really like those people involved in women's softball cricket to have a vested interest in the Cornish 100. So we will be playing the fixtures at women's softball clubs. So they may get the opportunity to play in a break in the middle of the day or something, but we don't want specific festivals because we want the exposure for the Cornish 100 and people to watch that and have a real following for it. I think that's that slide done. So next one, please, Joe. Next thing I'd quickly like to talk about is whole club ownership. So when it comes to starting a women and girls section or sustaining one, it's really important that the whole club buys into the idea of it and that you've got support from everybody on the committee. So one of the points that I like to make is that you should be providing equal access to facilities, training time and pitches. This also means that if you have a women's section at your club and they have a game fixtured for a specific date, that fixture can't be moved. It is a Cornwall Cricket Board scheduled fixture, and a men's fixture shouldn't be rearranged to come on that date. So that's something that I'd like to put there. It should be equal for men and women, and if the women's fixture is in the diary, it shouldn't be moved. The next is inviting female players to social events and promoting the women and girls section to the wider community. So again, just in line with your general side, your men's team, you want to invite players to the same social events, such as, well, it could be anything. If just make sure it's equal, pretty much. If there's a presentation evening, they shouldn't really be separate. It should be all together. Make sure everyone's invited to everything. Again, having a supportive committee invested in the idea of developing a women and girls section, and then once you've got the club bought into the idea, a subcommittee should be created to make sure that they have women and girls has a regular slot on the main committee agenda, and that it's taken seriously at club meetings and things. Next slide, please, Jo. One thing I'd quickly like to go over is coaching opportunities. The Foundation 1 course we've recently held at Redruth went really well, and we had 1 or 2 girls on that which are able to get funding to help support that course. There's another course coming up at Callyworth College, which I believe you've got a few weeks left to sign up for. If you have any females at your club that are interested in taking their first steps into coaching, we have got support available from the ECB to fund that. So it's not necessarily that they'll get the whole funding, but the course is £150, and you could get a minimum of £50 funding for that, for a female to take part in that. So it's something that I think should be considered by all clubs if you've got females interested in coaching. So please let me know if you do, and I'll send you in the direction of the right people. So next slide, please, Jo. And finally, if any of you on the call want extra support with an existing women and girls section, or if you're interested in developing a women and girls section, please do get in touch. My details are just there, but you can also find them on the website under the women and girls section. And we can start up a conversation, and I'll be more than happy to help in any way that I can. So I'd like to hear from you as soon as possible, really, and we can get the ball rolling at your club. That's everything from me in regard to women and girls cricket. So I'm going to pass over to Jane Law, who's our safeguarding officer.
Thanks, Kelly. And good evening, everybody. After all that fantastic positivity, talking about disability cricket and women and girls cricket, I'm slightly concerned now. I've got a somewhat tougher gig, which is to talk to you about safeguarding and EDI. But hopefully you'll all appreciate that they are important areas, and they affect everybody. Jo, could you stick the next slide on, please? So I've got 3 areas I want to cover this evening, really. Firstly, talking a little bit about me, because I'm new and I haven't met any of you yet, really, and my role, which is County Safeguarding Officer. Secondly, to give some kind of practical input as to how I'm hoping to support you and your clubs in what you're doing. And thirdly, to talk to you about EDI, which is an area of great activity and development at the moment, and what Cornwall Cricket Board is doing about that. Next slide, Jo, please. So a little bit about me. I'm new to Cornwall, although I did know 25 years ago when I married my West Country husband that I'd end up here at some point. You'll be pleased to hear I'm not quite so new to safeguarding, and I have worked with young people, both in the teaching profession and as a volunteer with various charities all around the world, actually, supporting children and vulnerable adults. I've made many more safeguarding reports and have many more concerns about young people than I would have liked. And I'm hoping to bring that experience here to Cornwall to work with you. And the main thing I want to put across to you all this evening is that I'm here to support you, make your clubs safe spaces for everyone to enjoy their cricket. Next slide, please, Jo. So how I'm going to do that, again, there are three factors to this. The first is being proactive. It's around running sessions like these, helping with things like safe hands workshops, helping DBS clearances, visiting your clubs, chatting with people, getting to know you, getting to know what areas you might need support with, increasing expertise across staff and the whole volunteer network in Cornwall around safeguarding. Of course, I'm also here to respond to people and concerns, to advise where formal complaints procedure might be needed, managing referrals, communicating outcomes, dealing with informal complaints. And quite a few of you have already reached out to me to ask me various questions, either by email or phone, and that's great. I'm looking forward to getting to know you all. But essentially, I'm here to support you, and I'm hoping to be a link between what the ECB is moving on with safeguarding and EDI and what needs to come down to you, provide that link and triangulation around communication. Next slide, please, Joe. So that's a bit about me and what I'm hoping to do. Now over to you. Trying to put myself in your shoes to feel confident about safeguarding in your clubs. Again, I think there are 3 strands to this. I think firstly, knowing what's required of you in terms of DBS clearances, what courses you need to have completed, who needs to have completed those courses, and knowing where the responsibility lies in your clubs around safeguarding and what you need to do if you're concerned. The second strand is to make you aware that there are heightened risks around as we emerge from the pandemic. Without wishing to put the fear of God into you, there are all sorts of increased risks around, and these are areas I can perhaps put out some information on. There are increased mental health issues, particularly around young people. There are new ways that criminal gangs are exploiting our young people. I'm particularly thinking around county lines. Devon and Cornwall police know for certain that county lines are operating in every single town in Cornwall. That means all our young people are potentially exposed to it. It's pretty grim stuff. Domestic abuse figures have gone up massively over the pandemic, and we've yet to unravel all that. And then we also know from Devon and Cornwall police that there are extremist groups operating in Cornwall, unlike other areas of the country where there may be more terrorist linked. Down here, it tends to be far right and white supremacist groups. And again, you know, they're areas we need to be aware of and pick up if our young people are coming into contact with that stuff. But essentially, you know, come back to feeling confident about your gut feelings and inklings if you feel something's not right, and act on it. And that can be as simple as picking up the phone to me and having a chat about it. Next slide, please, Joe. So I said knowing about your responsibilities and who's responsible for what. And this slide just summarises where the responsibilities lie within clubs. So essentially the committee and the head of that committee, the appointed chair of the club, has ultimate responsibility for everything that goes on in your club, and that does include safeguarding. The club's safeguarding officer will be the primary person with responsibility, but actually everybody is involved. Your coaches, your staff, whether they're paid or volunteer, everyone has a legal and moral responsibility to ensure all participants are safeguarded within your club. Next slide, please, Joe. So safeguarding is everyone's responsibility, and we are looking at possibly trying to produce some posters and some publicity material that you can perhaps display on your notice boards just to remind everybody of their duty in that area. Joe, can we move on, please? So I've put a couple of slides in now, which I'm not going to dwell on, but I've put them there just to remind us really that there are things we do which make us vulnerable to people if they want to accuse us of inappropriate things, make allegations. Some of these things we can avoid that may make us vulnerable. Some of them we can't. If you're required to administer first aid, if you are needing to speak with somebody on a one-to-one basis, those are things that we can't avoid, but we need to be aware that sometimes we're put in vulnerable positions by people, and we could potentially just be open to suggestions that something inappropriate may have occurred. Some of those situations we can avoid, and where there's blurring of boundaries, and areas around using mobile phones and cameras and so on, I would refer you to other policies that we have around those areas if you want clarification for what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Jo, can we move on, please? There are things that you can do to keep yourself safe in all situations. And here, you know, essentially making sure that your club and your visitors, everybody's aware of what's expected of them in terms of behaviour and adherence to policies. Make sure that everyone in your club who requires DBS clearances and training is up to date with all that. Avoiding excessive time spent one-to-one with an under 18, particularly if it's in a private place where other people don't have good vision and can see that there's nothing untoward happening. If there's anything that you're concerned about, chat about it in confidence, either with your club safeguarding officer or come to me. Where parental consents might be appropriate, then get them. And just be aware of your digital footprint. And what I mean by that is if you're online, you're on social media platforms, just be aware of who can see what you're posting and whether that's suitable for everybody who you might be linked with to be seeing. And if people do share things with you in confidence, then absolutely respect that confidentiality in all instances except where you think there may be a safeguarding risk, and then you need to report it without delay. Next slide, please, Jo. So that's a very quick whistle stop through safeguarding and some things that we might all be thinking about before the season gets underway. I want to move on now and chat a little bit about EDI, which may be something that you know a lot about, or it may be something that's new to you. So just backtracking and setting a bit of the background scene on this. Almost a year ago now, the ECB launched a survey to gather evidence about people's experiences in cricket. It was a nationwide survey, and they sought responses from up and down the country. They received over 4,000 responses. And amidst all of that, towards the back end of last year, you probably all will be aware that some fairly explosive claims came to light. And I'm particularly thinking about racism in Yorkshire Cricket Club at this point. The ECB's response to that was in November. They committed to a wide-ranging plan tackling racism, promoting inclusion and diversity at all levels of the game. And they launched their EDI action plan at that point in time. And then to come full circle to where we are now on the 25th of January, they further issued a detailed 12-point anti-discriminatory plan, which was put out in the public domain, and I'm happy to circulate it if people haven't seen that. Just to backtrack and go back up to the top of the slide, we're talking about EDI, 3 letters, 4 words. There's equality or equity, diversity and inclusion. And just to be clear about what we're talking about there, equality is about treating all people equally. Equity is taking one step further from that and actually thinking a little bit more deeply and giving fair access to the same opportunities. It takes account of different people's needs. So the example on the ECB's website around the distinction there is that if I offer to buy everybody a cup of coffee, then that is treating you all equally, because I'm offering to do that for every single person. Or indeed, I might offer to buy you another drink if you didn't want a coffee, but I'm making an equal offer to everybody. That's the essence. But there may be one person in the room who's not able to fully see the menu because perhaps they have deteriorating eyesight, or there may be another reason why they can't access the information they need to make the choice they want. So we may provide them with a bigger font menu or another alteration to the offer to afford them equal access to what everybody else is getting. So it's levelling up and making fair. And that's the distinction between equity and equality. Diversity is obviously recognising that everybody is unique. We're all different from one another, and we all have something different to bring to the party. And inclusion is about respecting that diversity and those differences and really appreciating it for everybody for the contribution that they can make and what they bring. Jo, can we move on, please? So following on from all those ECB initiatives, Cornwall Cricket Board is also moving around EDI. And we've established a focus subcommittee within CCB, meeting regularly, and we're working towards making the necessary changes here in Cornwall to improve the culture of our game. It may be that we don't quite have the same issues as other counties, perhaps in terms of, I'm thinking particularly along the lines of racism, but we certainly do need to make some changes here to make cricket an open, welcoming sport for all. And we have written our own action plan, which is currently being finalised. It's been presented to the CCB Executive Committee for their consideration, and I think that's going to be considered at next month's meeting. And it's also with the ECB for their comments and hopefully their approval as well. The 12-point anti-discriminatory plan, which I mentioned earlier, actually at the end of it sets out what every single county across the country up and down is doing about EDI, and you will see us featured on there with our action plan if you take the trouble to read it. Joe, next slide, please. So the next steps following on from that in terms of EDI are there is an anti-discriminatory training module which is already being rolled out by the ECB. Some of us have already done it. It will be online and available to all and coming soon. There'll be further more detailed EDI training as the process rolls out further, and watch out for our action plan being finalised, and watch this space for what it means for you, how it will affect your clubs, and how we can support your clubs to make necessary changes to make your cricket clubs opening and welcome spaces for everyone to enjoy cricket. Thanks very much. That's all I've got to say at the moment. There are some key contacts there. Your club safeguarding officer is potentially your first port of call, but if for some reason that doesn't feel comfortable or they're not available, you can contact me. My dedicated work phone number and my dedicated work email are there. And then the county safeguarding lead, Adam Widdowson, who I suspect is on this call somewhere and may be relieved that I've only given his email address and I haven't given his personal phone number for you all to contact him. I think that's enough of my voice. I'm going to pass you over now to CJ. He's going to talk to you about national programmes.
Hi there, thanks for that, Jane. Some really vital information there. So I'm going to move on to talk about national programmes, in particular All Stars and Dynamos Cricket. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Chris Anderson. I'm the School and Development Officer lead for Cornwall Cricket and also the National Programmes lead for the county. Joe, could you move us on, please? Thank you. Okay, so our mission is pretty simple when it comes to this space. We want to increase the number of Cornish cricket clubs, centres, in fact, that are running the programmes. And of course, we want to increase participants getting involved as a whole. Thanks, Joe. So just have a quick look on how we did last year, just to give you a bit of a flavour on numbers. So we had 31 centres or programmes with All Stars, and nearest damn it the same amount of programmes with Dynamos as well. Bearing in mind, Dynamos was its first year last year, where All Stars first started in 2017. So to have almost the same amount of Dynamos programmes in its first year was a real success and a massive credit to all of the participating clubs in Cornwall as well. Numbers wise, we had 828 children to be precise with All Stars, and that is just over what we've had the previous year, but that is our current highest amount of participants that we've ever had. But of course, we want to be greedy and we want more. And 637 children for Dynamos in our very first year was extremely pleasing. And again, thanks and well done to everybody who helped get to those figures. I've also included the split there just to give you a bit of an idea between the girls and the boys. So as you can see, just about a third of participants for All Stars were girls, and around about a fifth for Dynamos. Of course, linking into Kelly's women and girls part earlier in the call. Of course, we want to increase those numbers further where we can. So overall, as you can see, we had 61 programmes in total and just under 1,500 children taking part in last year's return to cricket from the previous year, of course, which was a COVID washout. That was a fantastic return. But of course, like I say, we want to increase those numbers. Next slide, please, Joe. And also just really wanted to highlight, and a special thanks to all of those clubs. Apologies for the random colours, obviously no necessary link to your clubs, it's just what's come out, but again, thank you. You get a flavour of all of the clubs there who took part, but of course we want to grow those clubs taking part, and we'll explain a little bit how to do that further on. But thank you again for taking part, and those who are already committed to taking part again this year is fantastic. Next slide, please, Joe. Okay, so moving on to 2022, really we're at the beginning of getting things set up for the year. Really want to draw attention to the priorities that we're looking for this year and right now. So first things first is get yourself onto Club Spark. So ECB Club Spark, for those who aren't aware of national programs or maybe thinking about dipping a toe into it, it is the National Programme Management System. It's a really intuitive system. It's not without a few issues here or there, but for an ECB program, it's actually pretty good, if I'm being completely honest. So first things first, if you're a returning club, get yourself registered onto Club Spark and register your club if you haven't already, and of course upload your programs. When we say upload your programs, that'll be what you're intending to do this year, so either All Stars or Dynamos, or a mixture of the two. If you're thinking about joining us this year with national programs at your club and you haven't already made contact with us, please just get in touch with us. We can just get the ball rolling with you and answer any immediate questions that you have with you. Looking at the dates and the timelines at the bottom there, it might look a bit frightening. Of course, the 10th of February is 2 days away, and that is the national program's priority launch. However, if you're not in a position right now to be there, that's fine. We can get you up to speed pretty quickly. For those clubs who are already on board and have registered or very close to registering and very close to uploading your programs, the 10th of February, if you have them uploaded, you will be visible come the 10th of February. So visibility means that you'll therefore be in a position for people to sign up to your centre. If you haven't uploaded your programme by the 10th of February, you will not be visible, and you will be visible as soon as we understand that your programmes are uploaded. The 17th of February is the public launch. So the difference between the two, priority launch is that ECB will make contact with those who have been involved with national programmes before, so All Stars and Dynamos participants. They will get a heads up, if you like, and they will be able to have a link into sign up from the 10th. But of course, like we say, 17th of February is the main launch. So really, if there's a date you really want to kind of get your programs up and running for, and of course beat the competition potentially, then the 17th of February is absolutely the date to be aiming for. Other dates to be aware of, 1st of March, we'll be looking at the activated training. So that will be from the 1st of March, we'll be running the necessary training. We'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment or so. And also the 6th of May is the programme commencement start date. So no programmes can start before the 6th of May, but of course from the 6th of May, absolutely away you go. Next slide, please, Joe. So just a snapshot of what we've got right now. And this is a changing picture. So if you don't see your club here, don't panic. It may be that we just haven't quite picked it up. There's a little bit of delay, but clubs registered so far, we've got 22 clubs, which is good. However, we had 32 last year in total. So as you can see, we're slightly behind at the moment, but that's to be expected. It is relatively early on, but again, we are looking at the opening date in 2 days' time for sign-ups to start. So the quicker you can get your club registered, the better. Again, that's via the Club Spark system. And of course, any issues, as always, let us know and we'll help as best as we can. So clubs programs uploaded so far, there you can see 16 clubs have already uploaded their programs, which means they are now ready for the priority launch on the 10th of February. and a more generic font for the clubs there. And you can see which of our clubs have already signed up. So again, a huge thank you to all of those clubs, and you are ready and set to go. Thanks, Joe. Okay, so for those of you who are not really au fait with national programmes, this might look a bit unfamiliar, but those who have been into Club Spark before to set up your programmes, etc., you'll be very familiar with the layout here, although there are a few changes. I just wanted to bring a few of those changes to light, just in case you may have some queries. So when you first log into Club Spark and you're getting ready to get your club prepared for national programmes for this summer, first things you need to do is, of course, register your club, as we spoke about a moment or so ago, right at the top. And it's pretty intuitive, to be fair. It's just a checklist. You can literally go through those parts that you need to complete as and when. Key club contacts, really, really important. That needs to be up to date and accurate, mainly because the key club contact is exactly that, the main point of contact for any queries that parents or guardians of participants who they've signed up may want to contact. That needs to be up to date and accurate. And also for the All Stars Club Shop, if you are to spend credit, as we were able to for the first time last year, then that credit option will only go to the key club contact. So that's really, really important. An extra bit that they've added on to the Club Spark system this year is that you can review your activators list. So if you have them, your previous activators, you can simply click review your activators. It'll give you a list from last year, and then you can simply set them up. So it's a nice little feature there. As before, the 3 mandatory documents that need to be uploaded before you're able to actually start your program, so before the 6th of May, we need to have in place the following: the first aid certificate, insurance certificate, and safe hands document. That's exactly as it has been in the past. However, a few tweaks as to how you can actually connect those certificates to your Club Spark club. First aid certificate, as far as I'm aware of right now, is that's going to be the usual upload as it has been in previous years, and then we will verify that, and that will go green. Insurance certificate and safe hands documents are slightly different this year. If you're part of the SHMS system, so your club is already registered, then there is a good chance that you could, and you're also linked into Howdens through the SHMS system, then you can actually check a box and it'll automatically reconcile between the two. And also with safe hands documents, the safe hands certificate, that will also go through that system, again checking that box, and then Cornwall Cricket will look in the background and make sure that that is in place. So it's just to make it a little bit easier. If you're not part of those systems, and that's absolutely fine, you can just upload the insurance document, safe hands document as normal. Now, I'm going to slightly contradict myself because I found out in an earlier call today that there are a few teething problems with Club Spark, and also the uploading and reviewing part for those first aid certificate, insurance and safe hands that I've just been talking about. That is just a teething problem that should be sorted within the next bit of time, so I'm led to believe. But for the meantime, don't worry if you are struggling with that. Feel free to let us know, but hopefully that will be ironed out and you should be able to upload and reconcile that in due course. Towards the bottom there, we've got the set up secure online payments. The majority of clubs are already set up on Stripe, which is how the finances are managed back into the clubs. That is, I understand, not going to be a huge problem as it was last year. So if for those who don't know what that was all about, it was a bit of a nightmare, if we're being completely honest, but that has been ironed out, and hopefully that won't be the case again this year. Next slide, please, Joe. So within the club, you have your club checklist, which we've just talked about, and then you have the activator checklist as well. So Again, fairly intuitive and straightforward. This will be available relatively from mid-February, where the activators can go through what they need to do to make sure that they are ready and qualified to run programs within the club. I think it's just important to just touch on this now, although I will explain a little bit more, that a lot of the training is very similar to last year. However, it's probably fair to say that for existing activators, it's not quite as onerous as it was last year. Next slide, please, Joe. Okay, so on the activator and training, gone large. I'll carry on. So existing activators. So we've got a refresher video as opposed to what we had last year, where we so Cornwall Cricket Board actually ran their own virtual webinars. That's being replaced with a ECB refresher video that you can watch in your own time. And virtual top-up training sessions will also be available for existing activators should you wish to have that. And of course, it's mandatory completion of the safeguarding training. For new activators, very similar to last year, there will be another virtual training session, e-learning courses to complete, and of course, completion of the safeguarding training, along with face-to-face training as well. And now the date and the venues are to be confirmed, but we'll let clubs know in due course exactly when they are available. And again, going back a slide, in the club, sorry, in the activator checklist, there will be an option to book the relevant training through Club Spark. Next slide, please, Joe. Okay, so just moving on to marketing, what we can do, what you can do to try and get the message out to as many people as possible. So in terms of promoting, there will be the ECB resource hub that we've had in previous years as well. Again, for those who know the national programs, you'll know exactly what that is. I understand that there's going to be more flexibility as well within the ECB resource hub, where you can do even more bespoke marketing, flyers, leaflets, posters, etc. Now, what we're looking to do as a county board this year, as per previous years, we'll have some physical leaflets that we can hand out to clubs in scope, and of course schools that we are visiting. Electronic flyers will also go out to as far and wide as we possibly can as well, so again to clubs and to all schools. We've also placed an order for some wristbands as well for all Stars and Dynamos, which again will aid us in trying to promote the programs and directing them to where they can sign up. And also we'll be getting the All Stars mascot, excuse me, twinkle out and about, and hoping to do some town visits and key kind of Cornish locations to help send the message out where it's needed. And towards the end, or completion of the national programs, we'll be looking at ensuring that all clubs will have completion certificates as well. We know how important that is for participants to actually have you know, something to hold at the end of their programs. So that's our promise for clubs this year, is we're going to make sure that we provide you with all of those certificates that you need so that you can hand out to your participants. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And we'll also try and get Twinkle out and about through the sessions as well, and we'll try and target towards the end of the sessions where we can. Thanks, Joe. Okay, so moving on to the equipment for Dynamos and All Stars. There's not a huge amount of changes, however there are a few tweaks here and there. So again, Dynamos participants, they'll get their t-shirt when they sign up. Just as a reminder, thresholds to get equipment in the first place. So if you're a brand new centre starting up for the first time, either All Stars or Dynamos, then you need a minimum of 10 participants to get your kit to your club to be able to run the programs. If for whatever reason you are struggling, please get in touch with us and we can certainly help you. It could be that you want to do potentially some taster sessions, which have been really successful at some clubs in the past, to try and draw in some more sign-ups. And again, you'll see other thresholds there at 36 to 72. It's multiples of 36 after that. ECB are also creating Dynamo's top-up kit for existing clubs. Exactly how that looks at the moment, that's still to be confirmed. Potentially store credit where it's available for All Stars may possibly be made available for Dynamos, but again, don't hold me to that. That's to be seen, but that's certainly in the plan. ECB are also reducing Dynamos banners as they felt that that was unnecessary. There's going to be more apparel available as well for Dynamo activators. So last year it was just the t-shirt. There's now an additional mid-layer for that. And also the participants' t-shirts, I think they've just been a bit more flexible in the sizing. With All Stars Cricket, so as you can see, no change to participant packs, so they'll get their usual, their bats, their balls, and their bags, etc. And then second year, it progresses to a bigger size bat or stumps, another ball, etc. Store credit, which I've spoken about a bit already, that was a new addition to last year's programs, where for every child that signs up, so if it's the recommended retail price of £40 for a child to sign up, £10 will go back to the club, and a further £5 per child will go into the club's store credit. And again, that's where the key contact will have the ability, and the only person will have that ability to actually spend that credit on top-up equipment, which again, we're hoping will cover Dynamo's equipment as well. And just on that, it's not written down here, but just to confirm as well, again, the recommended retail price of Dynamos will be again set at £40, which can be amended. For every, for example, £40 is the price you set. £15 will go back to the ECB, and £25 per participant will go to the club. Again, if you increased it by £10, it would still be £15 that go back to the ECB. Where was I? Okay, so there's also going to be some subtle changes to the All Stars activator clothing as well. I think the ECB plan over the next few years is to just change the kind of the logo and the general feel and look of All Stars, but they're going to do it on a gradual basis. Thanks, Joe. Very quickly, just to give you a bit of an idea of the ECB and their sustainability action plan. When it comes to national programmes, this is what they're looking to achieve to try and get to their targets. So plastic back repurposing packs for All Stars, collecting bats, so bats that aren't necessarily needed, they're going to have an opportunity to get those back. Packaging pilot for Dynamos, and as you can see, there's lots of different ways there that they can try and you know, complete towards their action plan. And of course, Cornwall Cricket Board will assist whichever way we can. Thanks, Joe. Okay, I did see a few questions pop through at the beginning of the webinar around whether there's opportunities for bursaries, etc., where it could be a bit, some areas are priced out, etc. So this is where bursary allocations are going to be back for this year to ensure that we have a cricket for everybody, is in trying to be inclusive as much as possible. Again, we'll be provided with bursary allocations, for example, like we've had in previous years, funds for runs or something equivalent, and again, the Inspired to Play grants. But it's probably important to say at the moment in time, we're still unsure exactly as to how that looks. So I think it's important that you understand that that is going to be an option. how it looks exactly right now is to be seen, but we'll certainly keep you informed as we go along. Thanks, Joe. Okay, really important here. So if you are struggling or you have a query, it's really, really important that you know who you can contact. So it just gives you a bit of an idea here in terms of your club support. In the West, we have Piran, or PK, as I'm sure you'll know him as, and there's his details there. So that's for the clubs in the west of the county. Excuse me. And we have Muzz in the mid part of the county, and myself for the east. If you would like a visual of or just confirmation of exactly where your club fits into that, we do have a club support online map, which I've written at the bottom there. It does actually have a link embedded, so when we send the slides out to you, you can click on that. Having said that, I'll ensure that I put the link into the chat in a moment or so, so you can check that out. Next slide, please, Joe. Okay, Joe, in fact, it's back over to you.
Thanks, CJ. Thanks all. Some really sort of valuable information there. So well done all. Yeah, I'm going to quickly go through to you some various sort of high important topics that we need to make sure everyone is aware of. The Safe Hands Management System, which came out last year, which is aimed, ECB system, which is aimed around making sure that our volunteers within the club workforce are and have up-to-date valid DBS checks. That was phase one back along this time last year, or even slightly before. We're going now to phase three. So this will be expected ultimately of every single cricket club in the county and the country that is affiliated to the ECB. But phase three is looking at sort of working on top of those club marked clubs that are delivering junior cricket, whether that be national programs or whether that be youth cricket as a standalone. So whether you've got an under 11s, 13s, 15s unit and no national programs, all Stars Dynamos, you'll also be asked to deliver it. What that is it means that you'll get access to an ECB Safe Hands Management System, the club portal, where you'll be asked to input your key volunteers around the management of juniors. So that's inclusive of club captains, coaches, safeguarding officers, etc., etc. Again, the system is intuitive, so it tells you what you need to input to get to a point of compliance. We think that there is 7 or 8 cricket clubs that sit outside of or on top of those clubs that did it last year around club mark. So what I would ask you to do is to start going, is that me? And if that is me, you start thinking about who that key contact is within your club. But I know that Michelle Kent or Jane Law will be in touch with you as a club to identify who that key volunteer is. That volunteer, whether it be the safeguarding officer or even somebody else, will have responsibility for making sure that the club has reached its compliance. So all the people linked into volunteering that require a DBS are on the system and have a valid and in-date DBS vetting check. Once we understand everybody and the clubs that are there, we'll obviously offer the clubs the support you need to understand the system, help you get through it. So don't feel as though you'll be on your own. This is very much a work in progress, in the last, sort of few days. So Jane and Michelle Kent and myself will be working on making sure that your clubs are up onto the system. But what we'll need to do is go out to you to find out who your key contacts are. Those that were Safe Hands Management System compliant last year will need to start to maintain your Safe Hands Management Systems. So this isn't a one-off, it's an annual event, and a lot of clubs are going through their AGMs or have had their AGMs, and volunteers and officials have changed. as a consequence, now is an opportunity for your key administrator to go onto that system and start removing roles of past volunteers, or adding new names and assigning new roles. And again, the system has been upgraded to make that process a lot easier. I also wanted to highlight the importance, or the opportunity, I should say, around the Howdens insurance. And CJ mentioned it within the All Stars National Programmes presentation. Clubs who sign up to the Safe Hands Management System, who are running junior cricket, have the opportunity for having their public liability insurance paid by the ECB through Howdens insurance. Now, this could be a cost saving of £300–400 on an average. But for you to sort of access that funding support and that insurance, yes, you need to be compliant. Once you're compliant, you have to complete a risk assessment, which you can access through the Safe Hands Management System portal. By completing the risk assessment, it automatically triggers the public liability insurance. All right, so I know that a lot of insurance policies are coming to life around the 1st of March. So I guess the key message is sort of an urgency. If you know you've got junior cricket and you haven't done Safe Hands Management System in the past, I would recommend making contact with either myself, Jane Law, or Michelle Kent, and then we can start adding your club to the system so you can start working towards that. Touch upon grants. There are sort of three grants that are, well, one's live and 2 are upcoming. The County Grants Fund is live, and it will be live for the next 3 years. So we're going into we're in year 1 at the moment, so it'll be available for the next 3 years post, so 2023 to 2020, end of 2025-26. This year we've allocated £73,000 of ECB money into projects around welcoming environments, environmental, etc. So really sort of exciting times to have that amount of funding embedded. What I'm waiting for from the ECB, and I know I've had a couple of questions in already about other grants, and other clubs have come to me in other forms of communication about whether, where are we around our grant application, where are we around, our net development, etc. Well, I'm waiting on the ECB to give us confirmation of a top up. So in essence, we get to a point, I'm hoping by the end of this week, where they will say to us, right, you've got an extra X amount of money based on what funding has already been allocated and approved. That will then enable me to come back out to clubs that were in the pipeline to sort of say, yes, you can now press ahead with your IMS application. For those clubs that weren't involved in the process, you can find the guidance notes and sort of the information on the ECB funding, the Cornwall Cricket Board funding page. So have a look there, whether you've got any sort of valid projects that you would like to sort of look at either this year or next year or even beyond. Understand the guidance, because there's, believe it or not, if you need a patio extension, you might need to contact Cornwall Council to inquire whether you need planning permission or not. So there are some fine intricate details that you need to be very aware of before pressing go on any sort of project. So make sure you read the guidance before you sort of press ahead. If you need to ask any questions, feel free to contact us on that. We've already got 27 clubs in the system who have expressed an interest. So that's sort of over a third of our clubs have got a potential project either live or looking forward to next year or even the year after. So plenty to get our teeth into, but it's an exciting time to create opportunities for facility developments, artificial surfaces, toilet renovation, showers, etc., to make welcoming environments for families, women and girls, people with disabilities, etc. 2 that we have been made aware of, but we haven't yet been given the details of, but will also sort of replicate where they were last year. we've got the Inspired to Play grant, so £1,000 linked into All Stars and Dynamos Cricket. I've written down their second programme, but in essence, it could be utilised as a support for people from low socioeconomic groups. So when that comes live and you are running an All Stars or Dynamos programme, then please apply for it. The chances are you will stand a very, very strong chance of getting it. Likewise, £250 available for women and girls cricket, which can be spent on kit, equipment, t-shirts, Prosecco, you name it, it can be spent. But there is obviously guidance notes that you obviously have to read very carefully to make sure that the project is eligible and what you're applying for is fair. But that is coming out, and as soon as we get that information, like the runs for funds, or even funds for runs, maybe, if I got it around the wrong way, then we'll get that out to you as soon as possible. I'm going to say runs for funds because it's written there, but that's linked into areas of deprivation. Now, as we know, Cornwall has a large proportion of its county is deprived. So this will count for an awful lot of people, awful lot of areas in the county. But that funding is there for women and girls, children linked into All Stars Dynamos, or children from, again, low socioeconomic groups. And I put there as an example, it can fund an additional summer programme. And I know a couple of clubs last year ran a continuation of All Stars and Dynamos, but as a summer holiday camp week. That provided an excellent opportunity for people to continue playing. And so the funding is there. It'll come out to you once the ECB provides us with that information. Volunteers, absolutely vital and a challenging environment. All right, cricket, ECB, Cornwall Cricket Board, we're asking clubs to do more and more and more. So fully appreciate that and very, very thankful to everybody for doing what they do. So we have to reward them. We have to recognise the efforts that people put in. And last year was quite exciting, where we had the Grassroots Cricket Awards. We've got the same programme coming in 2022, which is really exciting. We've identified the date as the 7th of October for an evening main event. Last year we had 80 people present. We had a buffet, we had awards, and we had guest speaker in terms of Jake Libby and Nicole Harvey presenting. So that was absolutely fantastic, and it was, quite rightly a welcomed event. But we want to build on that. So we're going to make sure that we have other events, Volunteer of the Week, that lead into the national awards. We've got the national categories in sort of purple on the right hand side in the speech bubble, and we've got the additional volunteer awards that we would like to have in terms of Coach of the Year, Umpire of the Year, Groundskeeper of the Year. But I'd also consider any sort of add-ons to that, to what people think they would feel valued. It could be a Safeguarding Officer of the Year. It could be anything that you want, young activator, or an activator of the year for All Stars, and activator for Dynamos, etc., etc. But what we're trying to do is create a diverse group of people being recognised and rewarded for their efforts over the year. Now that can start now. That reward and recognition can start now. So what I would really urge you to do is, if you've got volunteers that go above and beyond in your clubs, in your environment, to nominate them now. On that link there is the nomination form. It does say 2021, but it's the same form. Please fill it out so we can start that process of rewarding and recognising people now. We will make a big deal about it on social media and on the Cornwall Cricket Board website. I was on a reward and recognition ECB seminar today, and Cornwall Cricket was front and centre in terms of best practice for what they did, in terms of the sort of weekly Volunteer of the Week. I had Mandy Hartley, who's in the bottom right hand corner there, sort of on the main ECB slide deck. So we're getting recognised nationally, and I know that the ECB are very grateful for what everyone does, whether you're you know, in your clubs, or, you know, the members of staff that I've got with me. So please make sure, if you have a recognisable volunteer for their efforts, please make sure you nominate them for our volunteer grassroots cricket awards. I don't know if it's final one, but another one from me is very much a call to arms. Play cricket. Play cricket's evolving all the time for the better. We have been asked by the ECB, but it's also sort of benefits for Cornwall cricket, is to get our current players, whether you're adult or junior, to be full members on Play Cricket. What I mean by full members, when Play Cricket came about, Cornwall Cricket League, and you know, the excellent work that Mike Weeks does, virtually put every single player playing Cornwall cricket, adult cricket that is, onto Play Cricket, but as a temporary member. Or clubs have done it themselves, but because they haven't given them sort of the rights, data protection rights, they had to be classed as temporary members, not full members. So what we're asking is for clubs to sell the message, to get the message out there to their players, young and old, families, to get themselves registered as a full member on Play Cricket. So don't think that past or historical data will be lost, because those sort of accounts can be merged with each other to make sure that the data stays within that person. So I've provided a link there which takes you straight to the Play Cricket. There it goes straight into register here, and you can follow that process very simply to get yourself as a full member. If you're an under 18, your parents have to register for you and then link you into that membership. Again, the system will tell you how to do it. I've put a couple of sort of slides in there, or images in there. This is taken from the Cornwall Youth Cricket League. And the reason why youth cricket especially is that I would love, or we would love, youth cricket matches to be played and scored online, to encourage the youngsters to take on scoring, you know, inspire them through using a phone or a tablet, etc. The stumbling block to that at the moment is around junior membership on Play Cricket. So at the moment it's quite an administratively heavy or burden to get those the junior matches scheduled. But if we can get our junior players as full members of the club, it is simply a case of setting up a game and then clicking that player onto the junior match on Play Cricket online scorer, and then an online match can be played. At the moment, we are at 32.2% of our junior players registered on Play Cricket. Our target for this year is to get that up to 50%. All right, so we've got to get our temporary members down and our registered members up. But I'd also like to point out the games that were electronically scored to manually scored. So electronically scored 32%, which is a decrease on the previous year. All right, so we're going in the wrong direction in that one, and we've got to try and sort of change that and get it going the other way. So I'd really urge clubs to get their members registered as full members, which will enable junior matches to be online scored. So that is it from me and from the team. In terms of questions, whilst I sum up, it's a real opportunity for you now to put some final questions in the chat box. I have, I'm grateful to it. I have written all those questions down that we have had, which is exciting. So we'll get back to you on those. There's a lot of information that took place through this meeting, and I'd like to thank my co-presenters for being so clear and getting those messages across. And I'd like to thank you for listening. It's an exciting time now. I make it around 67 days until the start of the season. But there's an awful lot of preparation and work to be done to be ready for that. So now's an opportunity, you know, to put your right foot forward and to start setting up your All-Stars programs, making contact with Kelly to work out how to set up your women's softball sections. You know, make sure you get your safe hands management, your safeguarding to a place of compliance, but also comfort, I think, for the club. And, you know, investigate and look to set up the disability cricket programs, because that is, from what I saw, and major congratulations to both Troon Cricket Club and St Stephen's Cricket Club last year on holding the first disability inter-club cricket match that we've had in Cornwall. So that was absolutely fantastic to see. So yeah, now is a great opportunity for you to start the ball rolling. And I would like to, as my final message to you, is thank you for everything that you do. The trend of participation is going up in terms of youth cricket, in terms of women's cricket, in terms of disability cricket. So I think we have to provide opportunities. And one of the exciting opportunities for me is very much around girls' participation. There is a demand. You've seen from the numbers that we have over 300 All-Stars participants and Dynamos participants. I think it's absolutely the right thing to do, is to provide them with opportunities at 11 to 13 years of age to keep them playing the game. And you never know, we could win an Ashes in a few years' time as a consequence. And wouldn't it be good to have more Nicole Harveys and more Jake Libbies playing first-class professional cricket? So that's our challenge collectively as a game. So yeah, final thing for me, thank you very, very much indeed. If you've got any questions, now's your final chance to put it in the chat box. I can see there's a couple more there. Otherwise, I will say thank you and good night.